Cole Gibbens, welcome to the New Levels Coaching Podcast. How are we?
Doing okay, thank you. Legs are a little bit sore after a track session this morning, but yeah, no, I'm doing good.
Oh, excellent. Well, I did see that you were racing on Friday night on the track as well. So back on the track on a what is it? It's a Tuesday, isn't it? We had a bank holiday weekend. We're recording this on a Tuesday. So yeah, the legs not used to two track workouts so close together.
No, I find I'm a bit out of my depth on the track, to be honest. It's just something about the speed. I don't like going round and round in circles. Yeah, it all just gets a bit dizzy, really.
Preferring the longer distances these days, which we will come on to. But yes, welcome and thanks for joining us on the NLC podcast. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Cole, having watched you in London this year from the sidelines. Your name will be new to some people who do tune into our podcast on a regular basis. So that's where I'll always start with getting to know you in a little bit more detail. Before we go into your background, though, I always kick off with asking our new guests the same question. Can you name an inspirational person from your life, maybe that one that is involved with sport, but it doesn't have to be, that has inspired you in some way?
I'll be super quick, but I'd actually like to name three, if that's okay.
Wow, yeah, good. More so far.
It's my mum, dad, and my sister, so each for different reasons. So my mum, absolutely lovely lady, most wonderful lady you'll ever meet, but she trains super hard. But she, as much as I'm probably closer to the front end of the field, she's very much close to the back end of the field, and she's well aware of that. But she loves it anyway. She carries on training. She does so many hours of training per week. And for her, like running a 32-minute 5K is fantastic. And I just love the fact that she doesn't give up, even though people seem to have a little bit more natural talent than her, perhaps. She still keeps turning that doorknob, getting out for her training, and she doesn't give up. And I find that super inspirational. My dad, his body maybe gives up on him more frequently than most. He's had like double knee surgery. He's had some conditions that he's had since he was a kid that means his bone, his tibia, so his shin bones are slightly bent, which means he gets quite a lot of pain related to running, but he carries on training and he keeps hammering himself into the ground. So he doesn't let that stop him, and I think a lot of people in his position would have probably thrown in the towel. So that's number two. Second person that kind of inspires me to keep kind of training hard. And then the third person is my baby sister, Grace. She's type 1 diabetic and has been since she was about 10 years old. And it is a real hindrance when it comes to her training, but it shows me that no matter anything I can go through in training, it's nothing compared to the fact that she has to like constantly live by this machine to tell her when she can train, when she can't train. So she's an inspiration for me as well, because they all face adversity in different ways. And for me, it's just a constant reminder to be appreciative of how lucky I am not to have those different issues, but also just to remind me that anything's possible if you keep working hard.
Nicely put, Cole. Nicely put, and a good choice of three there. Yeah, I think a lot of our audience will be able to relate to that, because our audience is very much that, that mass market, your runners who do it because they love it and they aspire to be those or like those at the front end. So, well, some do, but we have people who are looking to run PBs, people who are looking to run marathons for the first time, people who are completing couch to 5K. And you've given some really good examples there of how it means it means a lot to people in different ways. And we're all on this similar journey. And that's the beauty of the running world, isn't it? We're all on a similar journey. We're all trying to get something out of it. And our paths cross in many ways, but we can also have a lot of different challenges and different goals within that. So, yeah, it was really nicely put. And I hope they listen back to it and hear your very kind words and comments. So some people will know you already, Cole, as I mentioned. They might have seen you on YouTube or maybe on socials. You have a really good social following. It's something that I will touch on as we go. But I'm also conscious that some people might have never heard of you, and I always want people to give, or certainly to tell their own story. So you've mentioned your family there a little bit, but let's go back to the Cole that was growing up. How did you get into sport or running? It sounds like a very active family as well. Was that a big part of growing up for you?
Yeah, so we've always been pretty active. My kind of route into running was almost through a different sport entirely, in terms of me and my family were having ballroom dancing lessons on a Saturday morning. And then we drive along the seafront, and we saw this like herd of runners, and I was like, what is going on there? Like I said to my parents, like, what is that? Can we do that? Or is it like free to take part? And that ended up being parkrun, which obviously a lot of us have parkrun to thank for getting into the sport. So then the next week, one of my parents' friends took me to parkrun while they still had their dance lesson. And then the following week, my dad said to my mum, let's all go and support Cole. What my mum didn't know is that he meant like let's all take part by supporting Cole. So then the whole family did park run, and we've kind of never looked back. So we've always kind of done park. I think my family have done probably over 1,100 park runs together. So we've done done loads. So so park run is definitely a major factor in our running journey. But that's how I kind of got into the sport, and then it's just kind of been like a bit of a snowball effect. Like every single year, you learn a little bit more. You do more events. You maybe do further running or more running, more training. That's kind of a whistle stop tour on my journey to today, I guess.
This is brilliant because again, it relates so much to our audience. As a youngster when I was growing up running, parkrun didn't exist, which is mad to think, because like now it's just it's huge. It's a worldwide initiative, which is brilliant. And I always remember having the argument with somebody who was saying, parkrun's not going to be very good for elite sport. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, it's just teaching people to turn up, not be very competitive, go for a run in a park. And I was like, yeah, but it's going to inspire so many kids to take up running. And we're going to see, the fruition of that in years to come. And you are a really good example of that right there. Would you have ever taken up running if you'd never seen that park run that day? Who knows? Maybe you would have found it, but that's a great example. And then also like that community aspect, like your family and yourself going to park run. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that, where it's not just about going out for a time every week. It's about going and be part of something quite special. And that for me is what the running community is about. So who's got the most park runs in the family? Who's winning the competition? Do you keep a track of that?
So we do, but my mum is, we're all very like family-oriented people. My mum likes the idea of so I'm lagging behind quite considerably because I've done years of cross-country races and stuff, but the other three, they all try and keep the same number each. So if one of them misses one, my parents will still go to parkrun, but they might not log it so that they all stay at the same number. So I'm on 200 something, but I think my mum, dad and sister, I think they're all past 400 now.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That is incredible. Oh, well, massive kudos to them. Is it a Christmas tradition in the Gibbens household that you go to parkrun as well?
It sure is. Every single Christmas. And when I've had like partners over the years, for example, that has always been a tough kind of, what's the word, like persuasion to try and get them to come and do Christmas Day parkrun, because it's obviously such an atypical thing to do, but us runners, we absolutely love it.
Amazing. So parkrun was kind of, I guess where you found running, but you mentioned dancing there as well. That's pretty cool how you got into like sport in a bit of a different way. We tend to hear the typical football stories and that type of stuff, but I quite like there's something different there. And definitely a lot of crossover there, skills wise, but balance, coordination, running drills. I'd love to see a few of them. I bet you're good at them, aren't you?
I'm not too shabby, but I guess I've always been slightly light on my feet, perhaps. But ballroom dancing and kind of marathon running, they are a little bit different. But I guess the ultimate goal is to have a quick step.
Nice. I like the way you've linked it in there. Yeah, I mean, we're going to go on to marathon. Obviously, London being a big breakthrough, I think that's fair to say. You would probably say that yourself. It certainly got a lot of people's attention because you were so far up on that mass start, and we'll certainly come on to London almost as like its own conversation, because I think it deserves that in its own right. But when you got into running, I guess, when did you start to think, you know what, I'm pretty good at this. This is something that I might want to take a little bit more seriously?
So to be honest, I don't actually know if there's a specific kind of turning point, really. It was just kind of something that I always did, and because my family always did it, I never really felt like I could throw in the towel, even at points where I thought maybe I wasn't getting back what I was putting in, which is definitely something that I think I've experienced over the years, as many runners have. And then kind of as I kind of grew up and went through school and never really did too well at school, and then never really did too well at uni either, started to kind of question if maybe running was for me. But then in the last kind of 2 years, I started to see kind of a bit of like a return in the investment that I've put in over the years. So I started to actually kind of kind of reap the fruit that I've sown over my kind of teen years, if that makes sense. So I don't know. It's never something that's come super easy to me. I think a lot of people might look at my times and go, "Oh, he's just classic talented runner." But actually, I think I've had to work pretty bloody hard to get here in the nicest way possible.
Well, I think I guess it's music to everyone's ears, because everyone can relate to that. It's like you're almost saying, And I know this doesn't always work out because you've given some examples already within your family where certain people face certain challenges and they're harder to overcome. But in most instances, you do get out of this sport what you put in, particularly if you're consistent and you're sensible and, you do put a lot of work in and you recover well, then you tend to see that the kind of keyword at the minute that's flashing all over social media is like consistency and stacking blocks and stacking bricks. We see that a lot. Keep stacking it. But you're evidence of that being true. And I always think the most talented athletes, you often don't see them later on in life. The ones who are the most talented, I feel like a lot of them don't stick around. And if they do, and they can train and they can sustain those higher volumes or higher intensity, you tend to get like a global superstar, like Keely Hodgkinson springs to mind, for example. Super talented, can withstand the training, loves what she does. It's kind of like the perfect chemistry. Whereas I think a lot of people, certainly at our standard, they are just hard workers. You've got a little bit of natural ability in there. Of course you have, but you grind it out, don't you? You get to a point where you think, oh, actually, I've done all right here, but it's not just an overnight thing.
No, exactly. I mean, the amount of there's probably times where people would probably be like, "Oh, you're trying quite hard considering your standard." But I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning before uni to go out for a 10-mile run and then do another run after I finish, which seems pretty quite intense for the level that I was at. But it's just because I absolutely loved it, and I never dreamed that it would ever really kind of lead anywhere. It was just I enjoyed the grind, if you like, and I enjoyed stacking those bricks, even if the wall that I was building wasn't super high at that point. But I just absolutely love the sport. It's I bleed running, basically.
Well, that was my next question, because I always do a little bit of stalking before any podcast. I have a look at socials and what I can find online, and obviously our social media world gives us a lot of access to people's data and different things, and it's quite good that you share a lot as well, because that makes it super helpful. And you are a person who likes stacking a lot of bricks, you like high volume, and my first question was, well, you must love what you do, right, to be able to do that, or do you actually not love what you do and you just do it because that's what makes you good?
I think definitely I'm someone that benefits from the higher volume. I can't maybe get as much out of myself on lower volumes that other maybe more talented athletes can, but I also do absolutely love it. I love the combination of A, the mileage, but also B, I spend that time completely on my own, typically learning something. I'm always listening to a podcast. It's kind of like that self-investment time, both physically and mentally as well. So I've just always loved to kind of pounding the pavements, if you like. Getting off into I live right by the woods, so I'm always able to, especially over lockdown, for example, when you're only meant to be out for an hour. For legal reasons, I was only out for an hour, but you could just get lost in the woods for hours on end, which I absolutely love. I just love having, as you've probably seen, I do 2 runs a day pretty much every single day. Yeah, I could probably group them into 1 run. I just love having a second run to look forward to, even if the weather turns. I'm super excited to kind of go to the gym and get on the treadmill. And there is the odd run that I maybe don't look forward to as much, but they're the money makers. They're the ones that kind of give you the real benefit. I feel like you get more fitness from the runs you don't want to do than the ones you do want to do.
Absolutely, yeah, and they do make, particularly those harder sessions, or sometimes when it's a bad day and you got to find a way out of that bad position, and they really do make you. Same with bad races. Sometimes your best races aren't actually your fastest ones, are the ones that make you and you come back from, and that sets up a better performance further down the line. That's really interesting with like the double day. I've never heard it put like that before, because there's like a lot of research, particularly with like the longer distances, where, especially from a physiological perspective, they might say that doing a longer single day is better, particularly for marathon and beyond, and you build up a certain level of durability with that as well. But you put it quite nicely there, where actually you like dividing up because there's the mental benefit of that, of getting out twice. And I've never heard it put like that. That's quite interesting. Yeah, so do you actually like almost look forward to that second break in your day?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm someone that's kind of always on the go. I'm never really one to just sit down on the sofa and do nothing, which is absolutely fine if people enjoy doing that. But I'm very much a kind of get up, have breakfast, and then what am I doing? Am I running? Am I working? Am I driving somewhere? Like, what am I doing? Am I editing a video? I just love to kind of constantly be on the go. So having that second thing to look forward to is like something else in my schedule, rather than just being like, oh, I'm at work all day now because I've done my run. And that's all I've got to look forward to, is just work. Which at times isn't the biggest thing to look forward to. But yeah, I just love having well, just extra things to do. It might be running, it might be gym work, it might be, I don't know, watching some running YouTube, just something running related in my life. Just it keeps me mentally sane.
So it sounds to me like you do love the sport. Like you say, you bleed running. You're kind of a student of the sport by the sounds of it as well, Cole. Like, you do a lot of research, you look at videos, you watch things, social content out there. And I know that's a big part of what you do, which again, I want to come on to in a separate conversation. But before we get to that, I was going to ask you, like, a lot of people would have looked at you on the London Marathon start line, see you do well, and they maybe don't realize that people like at your level, they do work full time and they've got to balance things around their life, or they certainly have part-time commitments. And they'll be listening to this saying, oh, double run. Well, I can't do that because I work, but you've got to balance everything as well, right? Like, how do you find that and how do you manage that?
Yeah, so it is tricky. I'm a full-time osteopath, so essentially my job is treating patients one-on-one. So if anyone's seen a physical therapist before, so a physiotherapist or a nutritionist or someone that does like a one-on-one service, it's that sort of style of approach. So basically my day is dictated by how many bookings I've got for that day. So I'm quite flexible in terms of if I wanted to block out my calendar at certain times, then I could, so that I could get my training in. But on the flip side of that, I'm still working full-time. I still obviously need to earn a full-time wage. I'm 24, so I'm at that kind of stage in my life where I'm trying to save for a house and save for a deposit and things like that. So, so training does have to fit around my life, because ultimately running doesn't pay my bills as much as I would love it to in the future. It currently doesn't do that for me. So yeah, it's just about, I very much like the phrase, like, if you want to make time, you will. And I definitely believe in that, well and truly. Sometimes getting up at 6 o'clock and going straight out the door isn't the nicest thing in the world. But I feel better for the rest of the day doing that. I feel like it builds like a really good mental resilience when it comes to those tough parts of the marathon, for example, or any race. Like, if you've been able to do those little 1% difficult things, suddenly then when you're in the pain cave in a race, I feel like it just translates so really well because you've done all the hard work.
Fantastically put. I think that'll give people a real insight into your life, but also like how we do strike the balance of that. And yeah, your job is also physical, right? It's not just, I'm not sat at a desk. And I think there's certain advantages and disadvantages to that based on what I see as a coach. Like, it means that you're not just sat at a desk, which can be good because you're kind of moving, you're mobile, but then you are on your feet. And I imagine there's some form of kind of physicality involved with that as well. There certainly has been from the osteopaths who I've been to see during my career, which has been many. I wish you'd have been around when I was still running, Cole. I might be knocking on your door. But I guess, yeah, linking that all together with the sport, like sometimes you do have to get up early before work. But there was a word you used earlier on, which I think is a quite nice way to look at it. And I know a lot of our audience will see it the same. You almost see it as like your escape time, or you're setting up your day with the activity that you do, and you don't see it as a chore, right? It's not like I have to do this.
No, exactly. Don't get me wrong, there's probably some times where I might see it as a chore. Like, say, for example, if you, I don't know, the worst time I hate is when you get back from a holiday and you've got like potentially a run to do that day. Like getting back from flying and then kind of travelling home, that sort of, or I work in, so I live in Herne Bay, which is in Kent, and 2 days a week I have an hour commute to work, and then 2 days a week I have a 45-minute commute to work. So if I ever have to do a run during that time, I'll always take running stuff with me, because the thought of having to do it after an hour drive home, just that does seem like a bit more of a chore. But it just, with my job, it's maybe not a 9 till 5, but it might be that some days I don't finish work till 9 o'clock in the evening because I've done my training slightly earlier in the day. I'm still definitely working a full-time sort of schedule. It's just a lot more flexible, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess that is the beauty, isn't it? When you kind of work for yourself, or you can pick your appointments and things, you can kind of flip those things around, which is always helpful. And you mentioned that hopefully one day running would be a full-time job. I think we're in an era now where a lot of people can create that from themselves, which maybe wasn't the case, 10, 15 years ago. People didn't have the same sort of access that we have now to kind of social media world, like that influencer world, and people being able to create the life that they want to live. And a lot of runners are doing that. Now, you are somebody who has started to do that from quite a young age, which is very impressive. And I guess I'm going to kind of address this straight off. People look at it in two ways. They often see like elite athletes and influencers as two different things. And sometimes elite athletes get a little bit peed off with influencers. Like, as a business owner, I don't, because I think it's very impressive what people do. I think anybody who's putting that time and effort into producing content and getting things out there, like, don't knock it until you've actually done it, because it's a lot harder than people think. So I quite like the fact that we have influencers out there who are, selling themselves, and as a result, they're rewarded for that. You kind of fall into both of those categories, which is like slightly unusual, because you're definitely at this elite end. And to kind of put a little bit of context behind this, like, your 10K time is sub 30, your 5K time starts with 14, which a lot of people will be like, wow. Your half marathon time, I believe, is 65 something, unless you ran faster quick, more recently. And your marathon time is 2:16. Like, people are going to like listen to those time and think, definitely an elite athlete. But there is a side to you where some people could look at you and go, well, he's also like a bit of an influencer here. He's very prominent on social media. Like, where do you see yourself in that?
I would say, well, first and foremost, I've always said that I'm a runner first, and I just happen to document some of my training. So maybe content creator is a better way of describing it potentially. I'd probably have influenced some people, maybe negatively, maybe positively, who knows? But I would be definitely lying if I said I hadn't produced some content that was purely for clicks and stuff. Like, I'm definitely one for kind of popping on a trend every now and again. But the bulk of my content, I try and make it kind of informative, more of like a behind-the-scenes style approach to kind of like, I'm doing this race, here's what I did leading up to it, here's what I'm doing afterwards, here's my next goals, that sort of thing. So I guess I try and kind of pitch myself as kind of someone who just happens to document their training, rather than someone that's looking to kind of make it their job or make it or make it their main income. Obviously, that would be fantastic, and obviously if I had more time to put into the content, that'd be brilliant. But yeah, first and foremost, I'm a runner, I'm an osteopath, I'm a human, and then maybe content creator comes next, just because it's basically a hobby. But yeah, I try not to fall into the classic cliche influencer, kind of just shoving brand deals down your throat, that sort of trap. I understand why some people do it, but yeah, it's something that I just try my best to stay clear of.
Yeah, I totally get it. If in order to grow a following, you have to do certain things that fit with certain trends and that are a bit clickbaity. Of course you do. You got to get people's attention, right? You got to stand out, otherwise you're never going to stand out. So completely get it from that perspective. I'm intrigued, like really intrigued, and I'm sure our audience are, as to like, when did you think like, oh well, this could be a thing, like, or what prompted you to go down that route of documenting what you do? Because that's how I saw it. I saw it as like, you're giving us a behind the scenes look of you as a person and you as an athlete, which I think is quite cool. But what prompted you to do that?
Well, I think growing up, especially kind of in kind of primary school and secondary school, I had this clear, like, deep need to be approved and kind of be popular, even though that wasn't the case at all. I wasn't popular at all, but I wanted to be popular so badly. So then when I kind of found this kind of crossover between people that were documenting their running journey, so combining their passion for kind of engagement with people and running, so people like Seth James Damore, he was a key kind of factor in my development into transition into YouTube. Ben is running, Ben Parks, those sorts of people. I think I just found, or like I had this need for like kind of, maybe it's a little bit like kind of cringeable, but I like the idea of people kind of following me and supporting me and interacting with me, and maybe that came from this kind of need to be popular at school that I maybe wasn't quite fulfilling. So then YouTube kind of seemed like something that maybe I could excel at, and maybe people would maybe like the content I was producing. So it kind of give me like an access to potentially making more friends, if that made sense. That makes me sound like quite a loner growing up, which in all fairness I was, to be honest. But yeah, I just kind of decided that, you know what, why not? I'm going to turn the camera on, maybe a little bit of main character syndrome going on. And then just kind of everything kind of grew from there, and now I'm super lucky to have like this wonderful community of people that will randomly message me and say, hey man, your video was super inspirational. I was gonna quit my marathon next weekend, but you've inspired me to go and do it, and things like that just honestly make the whole journey worth it. When I wake up to messages like that, I'm like, damn, like this was the right thing to do. I'm so glad I stuck it out, because there's definitely been points along the YouTube journey as well where maybe someone's mocked a video or maybe taken the mick out of me for whipping a camera out at training, for example. And I'm so glad that I didn't do that, because the positivity that I get back from YouTube far outweighs any sort of negativity that I've had in the past. And yeah, I guess I no longer need that. I no longer have that drive to be kind of the popular kid anymore, because I've kind of found people that, I don't know, aspire to the same things, have the same sort of aspirations in life, and then we connect through what we love, which is running.
Well, firstly, thanks for being so open and honest with that, Cole, and sharing that story even from back when you were younger. I think, yeah, it speaks volumes about yourself. And I think it's also really powerful to have a big why behind what you do. I think that is when it's more powerful, and that's when it's more authentic. And that's maybe what comes across to your community in a almost like a subconscious way, which is really nice. And secondly, I don't often swear on this podcast, but to the people who do give you stick, then fuck them, because I hate people who a lot of people are just jealous, or I really like this quote: the people who matter, they don't mind, but the people who mind, they don't matter. And it was something Helen Clitheroe said to me years ago on a training camp when I was a little bit worried about what people might think about me or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the context was, but they're often so wrapped up in their own little world. They're too busy giving people stick and not giving people enough credit. And there's not enough encouragement in this world for my liking. I think if people were just a lot more positive to each other, then it'd be a lot better world. But that's my 2 pence on that. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, because even if it inspires one person, then it makes a massive difference. And I bet those messages do mean a lot to you when they come through.
Absolutely. And I'm a massive quotes person. I love a good quote. And one quote that's kind of always stuck with me is dance with the person who brought you to the party. That sort of vibe, in terms of, I always like to celebrate with the people that supported me before the result, rather than just kind of coming in after the result to celebrate the success, if that makes sense. And that was something that was quite interesting to see kind of following London. Obviously, all support is fantastic, but it's the ones that matter the most are the people that supported me no matter the result, not just jumping on the bandwagon to celebrate me when I have achieved something pretty cool. So yeah, I guess it's a tricky one, because obviously people do change, and lots of people do kind of grow as humans just as much as I have. So you kind of have to give people the benefit of the doubt. But there's definitely been people that have made maybe unkind comments previously, but now they're all kind of on board with it now that it's kind of worked, if that makes sense.
I love that quote. That's I will definitely be stealing it. It's a great quote. But it takes me back. I'm not going to name names here, but somebody once asked me why my partner Gemma was with me down. It was, Joe, you get your athlete pass in a certain area and you can have somebody with you. And she was a registered coach, so I had her with me in the area. She wasn't in the warm-up area because that was obviously off limits, and certainly wasn't in the call room. But somebody quite high up at British Athletics said, "What the hell is she doing here with you?" And I turned around and said to them, well, she's the one who's with me when things don't go well, and she's also the one with me when things do go well. And it's all going well at the minute, and I appreciate all you lot are here. But when shit hits the fan, she's also the one who will be here, and you probably will all go running somewhere else to somebody else. So I fully appreciate where you're coming from there, and I think it's a really nice, almost little mantra to have. Yeah, and keep it with you, because the people who really care about you, they don't mind about what your performance looks like. They're gonna ride that ups and down wave with you no matter what. So yeah, it's a really nice quote. Maybe link back to your dancing. Maybe it comes from that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I mentioned my family at the very start of the podcast, because they're the three main people that have stuck around no matter what was going on, whether I was turning out to a race and coming last, even if it was all the way up in, say, Loughborough. I remember this one specific race I did, like inter-counties cross country, and I'd qualified to represent Kent, which was awesome. But then by the time the race had come around, my fitness levels had changed completely. So I was probably nowhere near as fit as when I'd qualified to represent the county. But they still came up to watch me. And to be honest, I was a little bit embarrassed with my performance, but they didn't think anything of it, in terms of they were just there to support me, see me enjoy myself. They don't really mind. Well, obviously they want me to succeed, but ultimately they still love me and they're still there to support me no matter what. And if I said next year that I wanted to try and qualify for, say, I don't know, World Championships, as much as it would be a bit cuckoo, a little bit kind of shooting too high, they would back me. They'd be like, yeah, you know what, why not? Let's do it. So yeah.
Why not? Who knows, eh? Who knows? If somebody said to you, you'd be second off the mass start at London a few years ago, they probably called you silly at that point as well. So who knows where it's going to take you. Yeah, dream big. So let's go on to London then, and particularly the marathon. So I mentioned your PBs, you know, really good 5K PB, 10K PB, half marathon, and now marathon. Like, did it go in that order for you, Cole? Was it like a natural progression towards the marathon? Because that's usually what we see with most athletes, isn't it? They progress up from the shorter distances to the longer distances. Give our kind of viewers and listeners a little bit of an insight into what that journey looked like towards your first marathon.
Yeah, so I think in previous years I'd kind of conformed to the idea that you only kind of do like maybe one kind of tune-up race and then you do the A-goal race. But I've always loved the kind of the drama, the emotion of racing. So I try to incorporate that into my training plan more, because ultimately, like, this is our sport, we're here to enjoy it. So yeah, it may not be the optimal way to prepare for a marathon, but it's the way that I wanted to prepare and the way that I would enjoy the training block the most. So I tried to incorporate lots of races along the way, and it just so happened that the dominoes fell in the order of basically 5K, 10K, half marathon. The only spanner in there, I think, was I had a couple of road relays, which were 8K legs or 5K legs. So slightly shorter and shorter in distance. But yeah, it just kind of, every race kind of fed into the next one. Like, I'd run a PB at one, so then I'd be full of confidence, and I'd run a PB in the next one, then I'd be full of confidence. And it just kind of the massive snowball effect up until London, really. So the kind of the 16 weeks between kind of the start of the training block in January and April, I don't think anything could have gone any better, really.
Interesting, yeah, because that's unusual for a marathon block, isn't it? A lot of people go and they've had like an illness or a slight injury, or maybe things haven't gone according to plan. It's very rare where you get that smooth journey. And I guess as well, you get people who have that smooth journey all the way to the marathon. It doesn't go well on the day, but you're an example here as to where it went well in the build-up and it went well on the day, which we'll come to in a second. But when was the decision made to race London? Obviously, you did London this year, just setting the context again for everybody listening. So you did London just gone on April 27, 2025. But when did you make the decision, I want to do London Marathon and I want that to be my debut marathon?
So, I mean, I'd grown up kind of watching London Marathon every year. As soon as I knew what it was, that was it. I was watching it every single year on the telly. And then my dad, who I've obviously previously mentioned, he then did London for a few years in a row. And every time I went to go up and watch him, I was just like totally in awe of this race, like the drama, the crowds going absolutely mental. Even though my dad ran 3:17, which is a fantastic time, but even kind of over an hour behind the finishers, the crowds are still going mental. And I just absolutely loved that. And then I decided to enter the championship entry because I had a qualifying half marathon time for the 2024 iteration of the London Marathon. I've always struggled with my relationship with food in the sport in terms of this kind of deep psychology of needing to kind of be lean or lighter equals faster, and that's something I've struggled with over the years. So that ultimately led to me kind of losing way too much weight and then picking up a bone-related injury in January of 2024. So that kind of put pay to any sort of London Marathon for 2024. So then I basically tried my best to recover from that safely, and I probably had more time off than necessary, really. So instead of having, say, 16 to 20 weeks off, I had 24 weeks off, just to be on the safe side. So then, because I was kind of deferring my London Marathon entry, it had been in the calendar for almost 2 years at that point, because I had to miss it because of injury the year before. So then it was just like, I don't know, 24 months of kind of training, all kind of crescendoing up to this one point, and there was nothing going to stop me getting to the start line. I had a couple of close shaves in training where I fell over or someone knocked me over from an electric scooter. But yeah, nothing was going to stop me getting to that start line and running 26 miles around the streets of London.
Yeah, and you make a valid point about the noise and the atmosphere for every single athlete out there. I'd argue like the masses even get it louder because the masses tend to follow their families and whoever they're there to support, and that it's almost busier around like kind of that 4-hour period. And one of the athletes I coach, I know sometimes he listens to this, but Kieran, he ran a kind of 2:30 marathon, so a really solid day out there. But he said it's like one of the few days where no matter what level you are, you're treated like a pro athlete, because where do you get those levels of spectators anywhere else in the world in any other sport? Like, you're running around the streets of London with hundreds of thousands of people screaming and shouting for you, and you're getting the same, if not more, than the elite athletes, which is absolutely incredible. So yeah, I'm glad you got to experience that, like cheering from your dad, but also now on the inside as well, and really getting to feel it and get the taste of that inspiration from the inside of the barriers rather than the outside. Again, appreciate your honesty with the eating side. Have your views now changed on that? Do you have a different view on, what does strong look like and what does fast look like for you as a runner?
Yeah, I think it took quite a lot of effort and kind of, I don't know, like reading around it and speaking to other people that have kind of been in similar sort of positions. So I watched a video by Stephen Scullion, and one thing that he said in there that stuck with me, it was kind of like an equation. So like speed equals power and power equals calories. So ultimately, like if you don't put the calories in, you're not going to be powerful, and therefore you're not going to be quick. So that kind of helped me. And also another thing that Stephen Scullion, I don't know him very well, I've just watched his content, but I guess another reason to show how content can be quite impactful is he said that ultimately you've got to play to your strengths. And for me, that isn't ever going to be being the leanest on the start line or the highest power to rate ratio, perhaps. But one thing that I am pretty good at is being durable when I'm fueling properly, and I can sustain pretty high volumes of training. So that's my kind of running superpower, if you like. Yeah, maybe I'm not the quickest over a 400 meters or an 800 meters. I'm not the lightest on the start line, but you know what? I can get out there mentally, deal with 20, 25 mile long runs on my own. Like I can get it done. So yeah, I think it kind of just took my focus away from it a little bit, and it's still something I suffer with from time to time. I just think every single time I do kind of face a battle with the eating, if you like, I don't know, I win the battle a little bit quicker or a little bit better, and then eventually one day it won't be a thing, hopefully. But yeah, I just keep improving every time, I guess.
Yeah, it's not about perfection, it's about progress from where you were, small steps in the right direction. Rather than trying to solve everything all at once. I think that's testament to the work you put in. And again, a really good example of where content can come in really helpful with, seeing somebody else's story or what they're describing or what, just anything that's going to give you that little bit of added motivation or a little bit of education to say, actually, you know what, I might need a little bit more fuel here. And it's fair to say we're in like a fueling revolution now. Like the literature around fueling is probably at its highest, or certainly there's more evidence out there now to say the better you fuel, the faster you're going to run on race day. And we've got to be able to tolerate that. And I know from coaching a lot of ultra endurance athletes, particularly ultra trail athletes, the general message is when I'm fueling on my long runs, I just feel so recovered afterwards because I'm getting calories in whilst I'm running. Whereas in the past, there was a lot around fasted running and fat burning and that type of stuff, whereas the education has changed significantly now. And I think that's also going to play a part. But also, I'm really glad you brought this up, Cole, because I think it is a taboo subject. A lot of people don't talk about it. And you're being very open and honest here. So again, thanks for sharing that. I know a lot of people will be listening thinking, yep, I've had similar, or, I've had those demons inside. Probably goes through everybody's head at some point, whether people want to admit that or not. So yeah, I really appreciate your honesty there. And I'm sure a lot of people do as well. And it's good to hear that you're winning those battles as you described. So let's go on to the day itself. So firstly, what were the expectations going in? Did you have a goal in mind?
So, to be honest with you, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew based off my training I was in good shape, but I'm not going to pretend like I didn't know that. But ultimately, the marathon seemed to be this one battle that a lot of people couldn't get right, or that people spent their entire career trying to nail the marathon and still couldn't get it right. So I went in with a lot of kind of apprehension, I guess, about or what happens if it goes wrong. And I remember one year going to watch my dad and standing at the end of Tower Bridge, and the people that left at mile 13 were not the same people that came back at mile 20. So only kind of seven miles difference, but they looked like completely changed runners, like almost gone from 100% energy to 0% energy. So I was a little bit apprehensive, and I just wanted to kind of get to halfway in good shape, regardless of what that kind of time was. I just wanted to ultimately enjoy the experience and not kind of be scarred with the marathon. I think having ran a good first marathon, I'm very, very lucky in that respect. But I knew based off of, again, watching YouTube content off of the sort of kind of time that other people were expecting around me, and people that I'd maybe raced at shorter distances. So, for example, like Ben Felton, I knew where I fared compared to him in, say, like a 5K, 10K half marathon. So if he was shooting for 220, why couldn't I shoot for 220? And the same with people like Nick Bester and stuff as well. So I just thought that seems to be the milestone that a lot of people go for. So if I get a 220, then I'll be absolutely chuffed with that. And then I went through halfway in 69.02, so 109.02, and I felt absolutely insane. So as I said, it was just about those next 7 miles, just making sure that I kind of just stuck to the pace, didn't go crazy, and then the last 6 miles was just a case of emptying the tank. But I definitely shocked myself. I didn't expect that. I thought on a good day maybe a 218, 217 high would be possible, and just kind of it all just fell together really.
Nice. Well, what a day when it does, eh? What a day when it does. And the crowds are insane. It was a hot day. It wasn't easy out there either. So, like, again, massive kudos to you because it was a tough day for a lot of people. And some would argue that, on a cooler day, you could go even faster. But, yeah, I want to kind of touch on a couple of things here. Firstly, I saw some stats off the back of London. I love stats. I love analysing them. And you're one of the fastest negative splits in the second half, which was super impressive. What we mean by that, if people are listening to thinking, what the heck does that mean? It means Cole's second half of the marathon was significantly faster than his first half. So he mentioned he went through in 69 and then came home a lot faster. Finished in 2:16. Do you want to give us the official time, Cole? 2:16. I don't want to get it wrong.
2:16.52. Yeah.
2:16.52, and I believe it was 25th place. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Top 25 and second from the mass start.
Yeah, John Gilbert, who's a very established club runner from Kent AC, he beat me. But to be honest, I had absolutely no idea on the day that they even separated it on the results. So I had no idea. It was just a case of get from A to B as quick as possible and not really worry about anyone else. So I had no idea until people told me afterwards.
Amazing. Well, an amazing achievement, amazing story. And yeah, 2 Kent boys, eh? John Gilbert's been around for a long time. You're obviously Tonbridge AC. I think you were in the Tonbridge vest on the day, weren't you? Because I was looking out for the Tonbridge vest. But you both represent Kent, and you've probably both gone to those inter-counties, which you mentioned a while ago. So quite nice that you got a Kent 1-2 there in London. And yeah, like final reflections on the day. I know you've got to go to an appointment after this podcast, so I'm conscious of that, and we could spend loads of time on this. But just want your overall reflections on the day itself, and kind of once you had some time for it to digest, what were your kind of thoughts and feelings about London?
My first initial thought was just like gratitude, just absolutely grateful that I had the people that mean the most to me there when I'd finished. B, that I was in a state to actually be able to take it all in, because obviously I've seen a lot of people get to the finish and they're just absolutely at 6s and 7s, they're just not in a good way. So I was grateful that I'd managed to get to the end, because obviously given the heat, like there's only so much you can control, and it can just go unexpectedly kind of haywire, if you like. And then obviously then just kind of the euphoria of going, wow, like actually I've achieved something that other people that I value their opinion, and I know that they know a lot about the running world, they're telling me that I've achieved something special. That for me, it was like, well, actually maybe this time I haven't just kind of exceeded my expectations, I've exceeded other people's expectations, which is a pretty cool feeling. So yeah, just gratitude, yes, and euphoria, I guess.
All right, bit of a deep question here, Cole, if you don't mind. Back to an earlier point you mentioned, was there that sense of satisfaction as well of like a lot of people who you look up to are going to look at this and think, wow, that's a great performance? Was there that almost level of acceptance, back to what you were saying about your YouTube channel initially, like a lot of people are going to come into that community, you're going to be valued, you're going to be feeling part of that, people are going to be messaging you. Was there that sense as well for you personally?
Oh, definitely a massive sense of fulfillment. And it probably took me, 3 or 4 days of just non-stop replying to messages to reply to everyone. I probably had over 1,000, which is obviously such a wonderful experience. Just random strangers that I've never met before, but being happy with my result, which is crazy. And random strangers that I've kind of been kind of conversing with for months and years almost, the same people that I've never met in person, but I know that they support my journey just through this thing called the internet. So that was pretty cool as well. But yeah, just the fact that people kind of so like someone that kind of helps coach me, I'm self-coached, but he kind of gives me some pointers, Ellis Cross. So when he was like, bloody hell, lad, how have you managed that? That was quite a special feeling, because it's like people of his sort of caliber being shocked and impressed. That's a really cool feeling. And obviously I'd love to run at their sort of level one day. But for right now, I'll take them being kind of happy with my performance, I guess.
It comes back to that point of people getting inspired by different things, and whether that's people running fast, whether it's finishing position, whether it's just doing something people didn't think was possible. But taking that inspiration. And I'm glad that kind of love and support came through. But I also hope as well people like listen to this podcast and watch what you do and actually support you regardless of the result. So I hope you do get as many messages when maybe it doesn't go as well on a certain day. And you'll find from the running community, as we know, you do tend to get that, which is why it's such a good and such a strong community. Oh, fantastic. I guess to finish off, Cole, just to round us off, what's next? I'm excited to hear what's next for you.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a massive fan of the track. I'm nowhere near as good at it, but I'm going to use the track season as a bit of a tool in terms of just improving my top end speed with the aim of improving my marathon time. So then as I transition through winter, so it's kind of going to be like a track season. Then September, I've got a couple of half marathons to kind of start off the marathon training block. I then plan to carry on the domestic scene, so in terms of like cross-country running, representing my club, Tunbridge AC, that you mentioned earlier. And then the big one to finish off the year is Valencia Marathon in December. So yeah, that'll be, obviously, everyone knows how quick and flat Valencia is. And as much as obviously I finished 25th at London, I think even a top 100 finish at Valencia would be pretty impressive. So yeah, just to run as quick as possible in Valencia and hopefully make even more of a name for myself if possible, which would be awesome. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, I've been to Valencia for the last 3 years. I might be going out there again this year. I go every year in a coaching, supporting capacity, so I may well see you on the sunny streets of Spain. Let's hope it's a little bit cooler than London. But no, it'll be a cracking one, and I'm excited to see how things go, and I'll keep a close eye on things over the track season as well. Just to give people a bit of an insight into where they can follow your story and follow your athletics for the rest of the year, Cole, most popular social media channels where they can watch and follow along.
So Instagram and YouTube, I do a lot more kind of long form content on YouTube, so kind of a bit of behind the scenes in terms of what I did the days before London, what I did on the day of London, things like that. So that's Cole Running, and that's the same as my Instagram as well. So yeah.
Cole Running, and we'll put those links in our show notes as well so people can click on them. Well, Cole Gibbens, that was quite deep at times. I feel like we could have done. No, it was great. Absolutely loved it. Generally, yeah. And I know I've said it a number of times, but I really appreciate your honesty and openness as well. I know a lot of people will do as well. I feel like there is a part 2, a part 3, brewing. Maybe we can bring you on before Valencia and do a part 2 and share that with our listeners as well. That'll be exciting. But yeah, from me to you again, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been a really good conversation. Almost a bit of a therapy session for me, almost.
Sometimes good to talk out loud, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant. Well, I know you've got a patient due, and that kind of sums everything up with Life of an Elite Athlete. Podcast 1 minute, off to work the next, and you'll be out for a run this evening. But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and our audience will too. And as always, to everybody tuning in and listening, I hope you have enjoyed that episode. I'm sure you will have. Best of luck if you're racing on the track or on the road or on the trails, wherever you're spending your time this summer. And as always, we'll see you all again very, very soon. Cheers, Cole.
Thank you very much.